The Modern Warfare 2 beta divided opinion. There's several gameplay elements that the community gave feedback on, so I thought I'd cover off my own opinions from the beta in this video and just let you guys know how I'm feeling about things overall. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, with notifications turned on by the way. Lots more Modern Warfare 2 content coming over the next few weeks, including a breakdown of what Infinity Ward bring to us in their post-beta blog, when that eventually launches, and potentially more Warzone 2 content as well. So click that subscribe button and you'll see those videos in your sub box. And apologies for my voice today, I feel terrible, but we gotta get this video done. Okay, we're going to start off with a few things that I liked, and one of those was the weapon progression system. The first week of the beta, the PlayStation exclusive part, I don't know how you guys felt, but it felt like I was leveling up guns really, really fast and unlocking lots of different attachments for different guns in different families. And then in the second week, once we moved into the open beta or like the pre-order beta for all the different platforms, it felt like things had been turned down a little bit. Maybe Infinity Ward did turn things down for that second week. And obviously that's what a beta is for. You want to work out what speed your progression is going to work at. But mainly, I was quite happy with how you unlock attachments across families of weapons or even across all of the guns in the game. You had to spend time using different weapons. It certainly cut down on that single weapon grind, and a system like this might actually lead you to discovering a weapon that previously you wouldn't have bothered trying, because now you've got weapons within a family that hold specific unlocks, and you have to work your way through 3, 4, or sometimes even 5 guns to grab everything that you need. So you might end up using a weapon that you didn't expect to use and then sticking it in your custom loadouts for the future. The UI itself, with like the trees showing you what things you unlock for different guns, that was really confusing in the gunsmith, and a lot of the time for the weapons that were further down the tree, you couldn't actually scroll far enough along and the attachments went off the screen, and it just felt like it wasn't quite finished. And in general, it felt like there were too many clicks and button presses within the gunsmith, but I'll save that UI feedback for later in the video. Overall, I liked the weapon progression, I liked the way that you moved around guns, and you didn't spend too long just grinding one gun to get all the attachments, and then you'd move on to the next gun and have to start the whole process again. That's all gone. You can use attachments for different guns. I like the way that it works. Ground War was another massive positive for me, being this kind of like Battlefield refugee, having played Battlefield for like 15 years before I started playing Modern Warfare 2019. Larger scale modes are always going to appeal to me, and the small improvements to Ground War that they've made this year compared to Modern Warfare 2019, they do make me happy. Like the inclusion of the transport chopper, which is basically like a big moving platform in the sky and you can run around on the floor in it. Amazing for sandbox moments. Diving in on objectives, getting stuck in the fight, or being used by your entire squad to move around the map and raining down death from above. It's an inspired addition to this game mode. It really added something special. The fact that Ground War didn't have AI in it, like the invasion mode, it made me nearly cry with happiness. 32 versus 32 real players felt really good. It never felt like there were too many people in one area. The Sarif Bay map, that felt more spread out than the Saeed map. And both of them kind of match the description that I got from the Infinity Ward developers when they spoke to me at COD Next, is that the maps for Ground War were designed for Ground War, and then they were placed into the new Warzone 2 map, which is called Al Mazrah, rather than how it worked with Modern Warfare 2019, where areas of the Verdansk map were taken for Ground War and were just, you know, shoehorned into the Ground War mode. They flipped things around for this game, and it does feel much, much better. In fact, Sarif Bay felt more like a Battlefield map than any previous Ground War map from Modern Warfare 2019. You've got the boats, the water, I've mentioned the helis already, the objectives having their own distinct areas designed differently from each other. For me, Ground War was a really good time in the beta, and I'm excited to see what other maps that we have coming for it at the launch of the game. And whilst we're talking about game modes, I actually really enjoy Prisoner Rescue. 6v6 is not usually for me in Call of Duty, as I've said. I'm more attracted to those larger scale game modes now. But it felt like S&D light with more casual stuff like the revive system, but it allowed me and my friends to just kind of mess around with like dummy hostage captures and stuff like that. I feel like it's a really good addition, and I can see a lot of people using that game mode as like a training ground for proper S&D when they're getting started. Felt like it was a really good game mode. I really enjoyed it. Okay, now it's time to give some critical feedback on some certain stuff. I've got some topics here that I want to talk about. I've got some things to talk about in terms of problems that I had, but also maybe some solutions that I feel could make things better. I'm not a game developer, so I don't know 100% whether these solutions would actually work, but I didn't want to just complain about things and not really have a solution. So here we go. First of all, the time to kill, or TTK. It's really short in this game, but that's not my issue. It's the inconsistencies that are in the TTK right now from other gameplay elements kind of just sort of wading their way in. I totally expected a super short time to kill in this game because we're essentially playing Modern Warfare 2019 version 2. It's just an evolution of that game. And we had a super short time to kill there, so dying to 3 or 4 shots in standard multiplayer matches, that's not really a surprise to me. However, I think you feel like you're dying even faster because of other factors, like the really long time it can take to ADS in this game, unless you've specifically geared your weapon to ADS speed, and then you've sacrificed range and recoil control. And another one is the sprint out time of different guns. It takes a really long time for you to reach the maximum sprint speed. It feels totally mismatched from the TTK, which is so fast, it's really difficult to react in certain situations. Right now, as the beta finishes, the multiplayer is really elevating a slower playstyle overall. It's pushing it further than in previous games, so players who like to camp an area or who like to tactically hold an area, as I like to call it, they're going to benefit through pre-aiming and generally moving slower, so they can react to someone who's sprinting across their path. Whereas the rushers, the more aggressive players, you're going to struggle because the odds are stacked against you in pretty much every single way. Infinity Ward seem happy with this. In their blog post that they released after the first beta weekend before the second one, they seem generally comfortable with leaving things this way, but the community on social media, yeah, they're not so happy about that. I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't mind a more aggressive setup, but I don't mind this slower pace either. I can adapt to whichever way it goes. I come from a background of playing Battlefield for a decade or more, and before Modern Warfare 2019, that's all I knew. So the slightly slower and more methodical playstyle, I'm fine with that. Or also a fast rushing one, I've kind of adapted to that through Call of Duty as well. So I can really fit in wherever they balance this. But I can certainly see why longer time Call of Duty players aren't as comfortable with the way things are right now. Newer players, the ones that liked Modern Warfare 2019, and basically that's all they knew, they will certainly be liking the look of this game. That's who this current setup for multiplayer is really geared towards. Then we should probably talk about the audio, which I'm going to say, as a Warzone fan, makes me extremely happy. We've got loud, directional footsteps that are clearly audible above ambient noise and gunfire. That's absolutely brilliant. That's exactly what you want in a battle royale where you need to know where people are coming from. However, in multiplayer, this might be a touch too strong. Having such loud and clear footstep audio with excellent direction, by the way. I mean, technically, the audio is fantastic, but in terms of gameplay, it's going to play right into the hands of players who prefer that slower play style. With them moving around less, they're going to gain so much more information through listening for footsteps. And I believe that footsteps should be audible up close, but at those longer distances, I don't think it's well balanced if it sounds like an elephant has just stampeded through your living room. In the larger scale game modes like Invasion and Ground War, because there are more ambient noises, there's explosions going off all the time, there's shouts from friendly players, there's gunfire, those footsteps get mixed in a lot more, and I didn't find them to be anywhere near as powerful. So right now, I think the footstep issue in Modern Warfare 2 is mainly focused around the 6v6 multiplayer modes. A solution that I think would be a good idea here is to kind of split the multiplayer and the various different modes in Modern Warfare 2 into different categories and then balance them differently. So maybe the 6v6 modes could have quieter footstep audio and balanced differently to the larger scale modes like Invasion and Ground War, because they play completely differently and you don't need to hear footsteps as much because there's way more players and it's way more chaotic. And then again moving into Warzone 2 with Battle Royale and DMZ, having different balance again, because detecting enemy presence is going to be crucial in those two game modes. You absolutely need to hear footsteps loud and clear. That way, I think you stand a better chance of making players happy, because instead of targeting different play styles and trying to cater to those, you're targeting groups of players based off of the game modes that they enjoy, and you can cater the experience to them as a wider group. Does that sound like a good solution? I think it sounds like a good one. I might be barking up completely the wrong tree according to you, so let me know in the comments. Then there's the big debate about red dots on the minimap or not. Right now in Modern Warfare 2, if you fire your weapon, unsuppressed or not, you don't appear on the minimap. Infinity Ward is saying that they don't want to punish people for firing their weapon, and that's why they're keeping them off the minimap unless there's a UAV up. That to me doesn't make a huge amount of sense because 99% of your time in Call of Duty, you are holding a gun in your hands and you are supposed to shoot it and kill other players. So actually, it sounds like they're trying to protect this slower paced playstyle and they don't want to give power to more aggressive players who would use red dots on the minimap as a way to chain together kill after kill and just dominate every single lobby that they come across. It's this battle of two different playstyles again, and I can see both sides of the coin. Essentially, Infinity Ward is covering off the larger portion of their player base, the casual players, over the more dedicated community, because they want to satisfy the largest portion of their players possible. People like you and me watching this video now, we're going to play this game a lot more than the casual group, but we only make up a very small portion of the player base, so I can understand where Infinity Ward is coming from, even if the decision they're taking isn't one I particularly agree with. Because for me, I'm looking at this from an authenticity standpoint. If you fire an unsuppressed weapon, in most other video games, you will be put on the minimap because you're giving away your position. If you then choose to run a suppressor, you stay off the minimap when you're firing, but most of the time suppressors are balanced to take away powerful attributes like bullet velocity and damage range. And that's how I think it should work here in Modern Warfare 2. But to make that work, you'd have to rebalance how suppressors work in the game, which currently I'd be all for, but right now the indication from Infinity Ward is that they're not looking to change anything here, and to be honest, I'm not expecting them to make any sweeping changes before or after launch. I think this is kind of locked in for how they want the game to be played. Then there's the perk system, which is massively changed for Modern Warfare 2. This time around you pick 2 base perks in slot 1, and then you have a slot 2 and 3 where you pick 1 perk each. And then you earn those during the round as it progresses. The more kills you get, the faster you earn the perks, but it's all based on time, really. People are divided on this as well, unsurprisingly. Some people think this is just change for the sake of change, others think it's a good idea. As you'd expect, Infinity Ward doesn't see much of an issue with the new system, and they are sticking with it, but they did speed up the earn rate so people get those perks faster, and essentially it returns the match to how it used to be in old Call of Duty games with the old perk system much quicker. There'll be a shorter period at the start of the match where players don't have all of their perks, but it comes around very, very quickly now. And this sounds like a compromise from Infinity Ward to try and make sure players feel like they're getting the Call of Duty experience that they know, whilst keeping their brand new system in place that they took time to develop. But one issue here, though, is if you join a match in progress, your perk earn rate is all the way at the bottom, and most of the other players in the lobby have already earned all of their perks. So that creates a real negative start point for players coming into in-progress lobbies. So I'm guessing we're going to see a lot more people quitting those matches and then rematch making to try and get into one that hasn't started yet. That's not a brilliant game loop right there, and I'm not sure how you solve it with the earnable perk system being in place. Maybe you just have to go back to the old perk system. The spawning in Modern Warfare 2 isn't particularly great right now. The game uses a very similar squad spawn system from Modern Warfare 2019 and the launch of Vanguard, where the game will choose to spawn you close to friendlies as sort of like a protection measure. But actually sometimes this can create issues going both ways, because sometimes you'll spawn in on the edge of a gunfight where an enemy is going to go in for a kill on your teammate, and suddenly the situation has become a 2v1 because you spawned in, and that massively disadvantages the enemy who up until like 1 second ago had no idea that you were about to appear. And that doesn't seem particularly fair for the enemy player. And then the other way around, and I noticed this a lot when spawning on flags in Ground War, often the game would just dump you right in line of sight of an enemy, and you'd be immediately killed. And I'm assuming the game thought it was safe to spawn you there because you were close to a friendly player. So either it's that, or the spawn camera thing where you like whoosh down onto the map. That camera transition takes a second or so, which is actually quite a long time in a game of Call of Duty, so an enemy is probably going to be quite far away when that animation starts, but they've closed the gap considerably by the time you've actually landed on the map and you're able to move your character. And now, they've got a line of sight on you as you just appear from your spawn, and then they immediately kill you. So yes, the spawn system needs work. They don't feel particularly brilliant in any of the respawn game modes at the moment, and I think I'm right in saying that even though Vanguard launched with squad spawns like Modern Warfare 2019, and with this game now with Modern Warfare 2, the devs for Vanguard actually reverted the system back to how it used to work with like dedicated spawn locations on the map, and then like general spawn flipping if enemies came over and dominated your side of the map. So that might actually be a better choice, but again, a lot of investment has gone into this like squad spawning system, and then we spoke about the camera that swoops down, and obviously that takes time to implement. So I don't know if this is going to change, but spawning just doesn't feel brilliant right now. And we've also got to talk about the UI. I don't mind the in-game UI at all, that doesn't really bother me. But the front-end menus and stuff are really not that easy to navigate, and they don't make very good use of the space. So take the menu for game modes as an example. Everything is like a giant box at the bottom of the screen, and you have to scroll to the right to bring everything into view. Everything's like hidden off on the right-hand side. Why not have everything listed vertically in smaller boxes on the screen, and everything is visible without having to scroll? Just seems a bit odd to me. And the friends list is an even more egregious example, where every single friend you have in the list is a giant box showing like their player card and all the cosmetic stuff you can have for your online profile, but you can only fit 4 of them on each line, and you have to like infinitely scroll to find the friend that you want to invite. So if all the boxes again were smaller, you'd fit way more of them on the page, and you wouldn't have this insanely cluttered look going on. One positive thing I will say is the settings menu. This is much cleaner, and having the option to pin 15 settings into a quick settings menu, absolutely inspired idea. I wish all games did that. And also you're now able to search through the settings menu by just typing what setting you want on a keyboard. That's great as well. That just makes good sense. And then the AI in Modern Warfare 2. I don't really understand what the aim was for their inclusion, but right now the performance of the AI isn't very good at all. In the invasion mode, the AI feels just like cannon fodder basically, apart from the fact that they've got their health cranked with the inclusion of armor, so they just become an ammo dump. You have to waste so many bullets on these bots, only to be taken out by a real player who's come along mid-reload and killed you, which is not a great experience. There's not much intelligence to them really at all, which is concerning because Infinity Ward has made quite a big deal out of this AI being included in the game, talking up how smart it is compared to the previous iterations in past Call of Duty games. Not sure that that's what I'm seeing right now. They do move around and take cover in more authentic manners, like they'll crouch down with their gun held down, they'll do like arm signals to each other, but when it actually comes to combat, 99 times out of 100, you're going to kill that bot before they've even looked at you. I've played Warzone 2 for a couple of hours. The AI there just felt like a way to fill out the map, really, rather than offering any sort of tangible threat. They do make sense around the strongholds, which are these areas where there's high-tier loot and you can get extra cash and stuff for buy stations. But placing an AI in every single house on the map so that when you open the door, there's something there, that just feels a bit pointless to me. So some work does need to be done to improve how the AI interacts with players, and really, I think the goal here should be to have the AI challenge players a bit more. So that covers most of the big stuff that I liked and stuff that I think needs improvement. I'm not sure how much will actually change between now and launch or even after launch. Infinity Ward do seem set on this more tactical approach to 6v6, and they also seem to be staunchly protecting their vision of an overall slower paced game. And of course it's their right to do that. They made the game and they've clearly got data to back up those decisions, but it is going to be very interesting going into the launch of this game to see what everything looks like and how everything sort of shakes down. Warzone 2 feedback has certainly been clear and strong as well, so if you're interested in hearing about how that mode could potentially be in some trouble, click here to watch it, and I'll catch you over there.